welcome, Martin. I'm very excited to have the opportunity to talk with you about Zwift. Welcome.
Thank you. It will be very interesting to see what you have to ask about Zwift.
Yeah, and I'm super excited because you are one of the pioneers in the Swedish Zwift cycling community. So what is your background before we jump into what Zwift is all about? Who are you, Martin?
I'm going to be 50 this year. I've been cycling since 2013 outdoors, and then on the first winter in 2014 I was thinking about why can't I ride inside on the winter because it's cold and I don't like to be cold and ride outside. So I was looking on the internet to see if there was some kind of cycle program or something you can use during the winter, because I had a trainer, and back in the days you just had a trainer and you put it on a certain watts, and then you accelerate and pedaling, and it wasn't very fun. So I was looking for a more fun way to cycle in the winter. I have been doing spinning classes and something like that, but yeah, I wanted something else. So when I found Zwift in 2014, they have just started and it was in beta program. So
Okay.
I signed up, but they only took on people with Wahoo Kicker allowed, and also the Neo kick. The Neo came later, so it was Wahoo Kicker, the first smart trainer, and I didn't have that. I had to wait until the summer of 2015 when I got my first smart trainer taxi.
When you started to do the indoor cycling and you couldn't connect to Zwift because you didn't have the gear and so on, how did you train indoor at the time?
At the time, I was doing spin classes, and I also had a trainer, but it was so boring. I couldn't do half an hour because it was so boring just to look at the wall. And
so it was not internet connected. You were just sitting on the trainer and staring at the wall.
Yeah, you could set the trainer, do 200 watts, and then it wasn't engaging at all. And I thought spinning was much more fun at the time, but I was looking for a new way to train, and that's how I found Zwift.
Okay, yeah. And just to tell the audience a bit here, what is Zwift?
Zwift is a virtual indoor cycling training platform where you connect a smart trainer. Is the best way to experience it, because when you cycle and you come to incline or a hill, the trainer changes resistance, so it becomes more hard to ride the bike up the hill. And then on the other side of the hill, it becomes easier, just as you ride outside. So it's the same feeling as riding outside.
Okay, yeah. And also, I don't know how it was in the early days, but nowadays I know there is also this social dimension in Zwift. I mean, you're not by yourself staring at the wall or looking at the screen being totally alone. It's social in a sense. Can you describe?
Yeah, that was the biggest experience, because there are a lot of other players or riders around you that you can compete with and ride with. So that was a really wow feeling when you saw other riders and they were riding with you, and you can say hello to them and chat with them and send some thumbs up. And the social bit is a big thing in Zwift.
Yeah, but and it's also, is it a big thing both when you're cycling and outside? Because you are also, at some time you formed the group called Swedish Zwift Riders.
Yeah.
So
when I started on Zwift, there were maybe 50 riders online at the most. 50 riders. When it became 100, it was amazing. Wow, that many. I saw when I was riding there in the early days a few other Swedes, so I thought I somehow wanted to connect with them. So I formed the Swedish Zwift group on Facebook, and I had seen their names, so I looked them up on Facebook and invited them. And I think we were 5-6 Swedes at the beginning in the group. Then I started the group in the 26th of September 2015, and just a week or two after we had our first social ride on Zwift. We were 8 or 10 Swedes at the time riding, just a social ride on Richmond, I think was the first.
Yeah. Okay, but and in the early day here, how did you meet in the digital environment? Was it could you invite from Zwift, or how did that work?
There were no event system or anything, so we just decided that we will meet in Richmond. So we have different worlds on Zwift you can choose from, and at the time there were Richmond and there was Watopia to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
So just two worlds, and that day it was Richmond, so we decided Richmond, and then we have said that we will meet at the start banner. It's a banner portal at the start where we all gathered, and then at a special time we set off and rode away. We just write in the chat, "Let's go," and people started riding, and
How did you experience that first one? Was it?
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. And after that, we had more and more Swedes coming on, and in the early 2016, I think we were around 100 persons in the Swedish Zwift Riders group, so it grew very quickly. They opened up the beta program, I think, in November or something, a little more, and invited more and more people. And I know when we had around 100 people on the server, it was so laggy because we hadn't expanded the server. We were running everything on one server, I think.
Yeah.
So everyone jumped back.
Yeah, I can imagine. But so in the beginning, in order to use Zwift, you need a very specific set of equipment.
Yeah.
And when there were more riders joining the platform, it was also opened up for new type or other equipment, not only the Wahoo kicker, but perhaps Tax and others and so on.
Yeah. Okay. They expanded the trainers a lot at the autumn of 2015. So all smart trainers and also old trainers with just Ant Plus connection and speed control. You can also ride with that.
But what do I need more than an internet-connected trainer? Do I need a computer, or do I need specialized computers? Or
nowadays you can ride on almost any device. You can use your phone, you can use your iPad, you can use Apple TV, you can use PC or Mac. But back in the days, it was only PC.
Yeah, and in the Swedish Zwift Rider group, was it in the beginning more for the cycling part, or was it for the technical challenges, or what connected the group?
I think the social bit connected the group mostly, but also a big, large support group for Swedes to help them get started on Zwift, and people have a lot of questions. Even nowadays, we are bombarded with questions every autumn when people come inside, so we answered a lot of support questions from different riders.
And you also have this document saying that before you ask a question, please have a look here. Someone else might have asked the same question. It's very humble in that sense.
We try to be as humble as possible, but we have had questions many times. Question.
Yeah. But in the early days, you talked about that they had some sort of a problem with scalability or lagging, that the platform wasn't that high quality. How has that changed over time? And has it been other problems with the platform?
When it was in beta, they run everything locally on their own servers, and they were located in the USA, on the West Coast, I think, in Los Angeles somewhere. They are just experienced when more and more people came on, it became too much for them. So I'm not sure really exact at what date they moved, but they moved everything to Amazon Web Service.
Okay.
After that, it became much more stable and also scalable. So more people can join, and more servers started spinning up, and the lag disappeared. But there were a lot of lagging and problems in the beginning before they moved over to Amazon. And then it's mostly have been software problems. They updated something and broke something at the same time, and any software company, I would say. But
But how does it work? Because in the beginning you talked about you were quite few people in Zwift, but now it's many more. How does it look on Zwift? Because if everyone who is on Zwift would be visible, you wouldn't see a thing, I can imagine. So how does that work? If you and I sign up for go to the Richmond track or course, would you and I see each other, or how do I bump into you? How does that work?
Nowadays, you can either just talk to a friend and tell each other where to meet on the course, or you can create something called a meetup and invite the people you want to ride with to the meetup, and then you have set the time and everything. So you just join Zwift, start Zwift, and then you got the join event button, and you click that, and everyone starts at the same place, and you can chat and you can see each other and talk to each other.
Wow.
You can have a meetup closed, so you don't see anyone else but the people you invited, or you can have it an open event and you see all the other riders around you. But the maximum riders around you can see is 100 riders.
Okay.
All the other riders. Sometimes we have had around 40,000 people online on Zwift, but you can just see 100 closest riders to you. That's the maximum Zwift allows, because it should work on any device. So that's why they limited it to 100 people.
Okay, so they have over time they have adjusted Zwift in order to meet that it has become more popular and so on.
Yeah, we had an event, a popular event going on now called Tour de Zwift, and it started last week or something, and we had 10,000 riders signed up to one event.
Wow.
When it started. So these events are a little crazy. So
yeah, I can imagine.
When you ride loads of people, and if you ride forward, you just see more and more riders ahead of you, and the people behind disappear. It's very cool experience to ride with so many people, because there are always people around you to ride with. And after a while, after let's say 10 kilometers or so, it divides up in smaller groups, and then it becomes more rideable. But
okay.
I thought it's a little crazy when everyone rides off, but then it usually gets better after a few kilometers.
But since it's become so popular, do you still need to be a very technical person or like a sport tech geek in order to set up your trainer and get going, or what is the level of technology competence that you need?
And nowadays, I think it's rather easy. All the gears connects via Bluetooth, or you can use another protocol called ANT+. To connect to your device. If you take a phone or an iPad or Apple TV, they connect normally over Bluetooth. So you just start Zwift, and Zwift will search for the equipment. As long as you have turned it on, it will automatically find it and connect to it. You can connect your trainer, and then you can connect a heart rate monitor if you like.
Yeah, okay.
Heart rate, or external power meters.
Okay, that sounds excellent. Let's see here, and we talk about so me as a ordinary person doing interested in cycling, it's not like a big hurdle for me to get started, even if there might be some technical challenges. I can imagine.
It could be some small bumps to get over, but after a ride or two, you get used to it. People often, there are to ride on Zwift, there are two apps that are essentials. You need Zwift on some device, and also there is some other app called Zwift Companion, which you use to sign up for events. You can see your rides. When you're done the ride, you can go in and check how it went and so on. And you can also create these meetups and see coming events and sign up for them.
Okay.
The apps are quite important to have if you want to ride on Zwift.
And as you said in the beginning, you became interested in Zwift because you wanted to train and make the indoor training a bit more fun. But now there is also competition on Zwift. Both competition for people like ordinary people, but also for some sort of sub-elite, but also for the elite. That development, can you say a few words about that?
The races started back in 2015 also. We all met at the start portal, and then they had a guy who counted down and everyone had a clock on the screen, so they know when to start, so no one cheated. But nowadays it's become more automated. You have special events, special races you can join, and there are also special different classes or categories, as you say. You have A, B, C, and D category in a normal race.
Yeah.
And depending on how strong you are ranked in different categories, the elite in the A category, the strongest riders. And then the B riders are semi-elite, riding a lot.
Mm.
And the C are more ordinary people, and D are for beginners, I would say,
Yeah.
or heavy people.
Okay. Yeah. And the obviously the amount of power that I push into the pedals are important here in relationship to my body weight. And I know, and I read in the news, and I hear in the forums and so on, there are some controversies around the weight and so on. Is it up to me to put in my honestly add my weight, or should I go to a place to do it, or how does it work? And what is this all about?
For normal Swift riding, you put in your own weight in Swift, and also your height to tell Swift how to calculate how fast you will go. There are some people who enjoys cheating, or
Yeah.
so they put in a lower weight, and that will make your avatar move faster. Because
Okay.
you put out more watts than a guy maybe at 50 kilos. It's often quite easy to spot because exaggerate weight loss or something. And there are also race sites that keep control of your weight, so if you change rapidly, you can see that. And if they enter races, people becomes more serious about the weights.
Yeah.
If you ride a normal group ride and something, people don't care if you have your weight at 50 kilos, but if you do a race and change your weight, it becomes more serious.
Yeah, okay. But does that mean that there are organizations or places on the internet that works as some sort of anti-digital doping agency, or that tries to keep track on your weight and not to be able to cheat in this digital environment?
Yeah, on Swift there is a site called swiftpower.com, and that site keeps control of all riders that are racing or want to race Swift. So you can see all the data from these riders on that site and how they perform in the race. And also Swift hasn't any rule set in their races. So that's how Swift Power started, because the community wanted to set rules for races. For example, you wanted everyone to have a heart rate monitor so you can check the heart rate. You want everyone to ride in the correct category. Swift, you can, as a A rider, join a D group. Swift knows about it, but it doesn't enforce the category systems. But if you do that in a race and you're on Swift Power will delete that result from your race. It won't be in the results of that race if you join the wrong category, for example.
Wow. So in this digital world, it has become so serious that you need some sort of governing body around it, or regulations, as you also talk about. Okay.
Even the UCI are involved now, because there are, as you say, elite races for pro cyclists also. When on these races, they normally meet up on IRL somewhere in a place, and all trainers are calibrated, and all the riders are weighed and measured heights, and everything is checked. So the pro races are really serious.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, really sounds like it. But I heard that maybe it was a few years ago, there was some really, maybe it wasn't a clever, but it was an interesting cheating method in order to earn some sort of benefits or a better bike within the Swift platform. Someone were manipulating something in order to show that he has climbed. It was, what was that about? Maybe
there is something called an ant simulator that simulates the data that is put into Swift. So that's really for developers of the Ant Plus protocol to use to test their equipment, if the equipment reacts. But people used that simulator to simulate, let's say, 200 watts. And, then you start Swift and you run the simulator, and on Swift you will ride at 200 watts. And there are some challenges on Swift that you can unlock different gears and so on. There's a bike called a Tron bike, which is
the Tron bike.
And to unlock that, you need to ride 50,000 height meters. So you need to ride up a hill a lot, and that's how they cheated to get that bike. They were riding up and down the mountain and had the Ant simulator do it instead of their own. So that's why he was disqualified from
Okay.
from a world championship race, because he had used that kind of thing to cheat to get the bike.
Okay, yeah. And last thing on this more dark side of Swift, there is a concept called sticky watts. In the real world, they talk about sticky bottles. When the sport director hold out a water bottle outside the car, and the cyclist who is maybe behind the peloton can get that bottle, but apparently it's very difficult to get to let loose of the bottle. So we talk about sticky bottles.
Yeah.
But in Swift we have sticky watts, which is partly something else, but it's sticky apparently.
Yeah, and that's something that Swift developed to have people be able to drop, maybe stop cycling for a second, and still the watts will remain the same, because you can get something called a dropout, that you lose the signal to Swift for a brief moment, maybe 1 second or 2 seconds. So Swift comp for losing that data, and they continue to keep the watts at the same level. So some clever people tried to fool the system, and yeah, if you start pedaling a lot, spin up the watts for, let's say, 500 watts, and then you stop pedaling for 2-3 seconds, you can rest. And before the watt starts to drop, you get on the pedals again and pedal up the trainer. There is a flywheel in the train that keeps the speed going. So as long as you keep pedaling, the watt stays at the same level at the same time. But you can see it on the cadence, which is how fast the RPMs you're pedaling.
Yeah.
You can see that the cadence drops, but the watts stay at the same level. So it's quite easy to spot if you know what to look for. That's how people started to cheat the system. But Swift recently changed that a lot, I think, because now it takes just a second or two before the watt starts to drop. It drops to zero rather quickly now, but still people are using the technique to fool the system.
Yeah.
It's something hard to get rid of, I think. It's the only way is to educate people not to use it, because it's not a normal way to cycle. You don't do that outside. You don't pedal up to 500 watts and then you stop pedaling. Especially on hills, you would stop immediately if you do that outside.
Yeah.
So to educate people.
But here it sounds like cycling on Swift in a digital world is partly its special type of cycling, but in this virtual world we're trying to mimic the outdoor or physical or real cycling as much as possible. How long can these two things try to be connected, or will they diverge, be two different types of cycling practices perhaps? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is two different. It's like BMX and road cycling. It's two different kinds of sports, I would say, because you have to be good at Swift. You have to learn the game. You have to learn how to draft behind a cyclist. You have to learn the courses, how they go up and down. And there's a lot of techniques you have to master to be good at Swift. It doesn't, if you are really super good, like Peter Sagan, cyclist outdoor, it doesn't mean you will be good at Swift. You have a strength, but you don't know the courses and you don't know the technique, how to use it.
Yeah, okay.
They also need to practice a lot before they get good at it. It's like in any other cycling discipline, like track and road and different kinds of cycling.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I can imagine that now during the pandemic, the last 2 years, I don't know how to count anymore in that terms. How has Swift during that time developed? Has it been like a super strong increase of people, or has people stopped training, or what's your view here? How has the pandemic affected?
It really exploded, I would say, because when the pandemic started, 2000, was it 18, 19, 20?
Yeah, 20, I think. I don't know. It's difficult to... Yeah, 20. Yeah.
There was everything closed and the parts was missing from everywhere. And all the trainers you couldn't get a trainer anywhere. So they sold out, and the stock has been low since then. But now I think they are recovered. But for a year or more than a year, there was absolutely no trainer to get without a long waiting time. It really kept going. Normally during the summertime, it went people went outside and rides outside, but there's been a lot of lockdowns in different countries, and so people couldn't ride outside, so they continued to ride on Zwift. And you saw that really in 2020. There was a lot of people riding indoors, even the summertime.
Yeah.
I think it changed a lot. And in big cities, it takes maybe an hour or something more than that to ride out of a city before you can get out on some smaller roads. So a lot of people living in cities enjoys riding on Zwift instead, to save a lot of time. They can just jump on the bike and do a quick session of 30 minutes, and then they're done, and then just jump in the shower instead of spending 2 hours riding in and out of the city.
Yeah.
So,
and also there's some has always been a discussion, but perhaps even more nowadays, the safety issue of cycling. We've seen all these horrible videos on YouTube on how drivers deliberately, or it's difficult to assess, but sometimes you can assess it's deliberate, that they try to hit cyclists.
Yeah.
Is Zwift a good way to stay a bit safer, or what's your view here?
Yeah, that's also one big thing that people decided it's much more safer to do it inside on Zwift, and also a lot more engaging and fun if you have friends on Zwift or rides with them. And so I think a lot of ordinary cyclists have decided to ride just indoors instead, especially if they live in the cities or where it's a lot of traffic, before they can ride in a country road or something like that.
I can imagine in the big cities in UK, United States, and in Southeast Asia, then Zwift riding must be the way to cycle in many ways.
Yeah, because it takes so long time to get out of the city. So maybe we'll just take the bike on the car and drive outside the city in the weekends. But in the weeks, they stay on Zwift, and because it's so convenient just to jump on the trainer and do a quick session, and you will be done. And if you get tired, you can just jump off the bike and you're home.
and walk to the fridge. And empty the fridge.
And take a beer and sit down.
And finally here, we come to some sort of end. How do you envision the development of Zwift? What could we, or what do you see, or what do you expect in the near future here?
I expect that they will continue to develop the platform, and I think they say the racing is just like 10%, and most people are doing workouts. But I think to be a serious indoor training platform, you need to have governance around racing. So I think we will start to enforce categories, so you can't join lower category than you're ranked. Or I think we will get some kind of ranking system, and I hope they will, but it takes a few years more perhaps before they are there. But that's what I'm hoping for in the racing. And other bits, I think, is just maybe add on more worlds and so on, but that's something people always ask about. But it's always fun to have new roads, but there are already a lot of roads on Zwift, so if you want to ride them all, I think it will take quite some time before you've done all the courses.
Okay, sounds great. And by the way, has Zwift reached out to you and the Swedish community?
I have contact with Zwift. We have a community leader group for Zwift communities leaders. So we have a contact with Zwift every month or so, information about what's happening and so on, and special events they want to promote. So I have connections with Zwift.
Okay. And in those meetings, is it more like they inform, or are they also interested in your views and how you and your community are using Zwift, or what is the discussion?
It's both ways. They listen to us a little, but maybe not answering or telling us what's coming, but they listen to what we say. And the Zwift forums is also a good place if you want something new to happen on Zwift, where you can create a vote for if you have some feature that you would like to see, and you can create a vote in the forums, and if a lot of people vote for that functionality, Zwift will develop it.
Wow, so that type of impact is really
so I
smart.
think we are quite good at listening on what people want, but nowadays there are so many Zwifters. I think there are over 1 million Zwift around the world, so they got a lot of requests, and it's not easy to make everyone happy. But
No, I can
they
imagine.
look for the big things and goes for that, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So when is your next race on Zwift? Is it tonight or
Tonight,
tonight?
we are
Yeah.
doing the Zwift Racing League, which is the biggest race league on Zwift with over 10,000 teams participating,
Yeah.
with 6 riders in each team. So
Wow.
tonight will be a big race night.
Good luck and prepare well now and make all the necessary preparations. Thank you so much, Martin. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.